Welcome everyone to the DB Compensation 10.0 training. What we're going to be doing today is going through the new release of DB Compensation 10.0. This is the 10th release since 2005, and which means we've done an update basically every year since the inception of DB Compensation. What I'm going to do with you today is go through the software and identify and show you the different changes for the software, so that when we release this, you'll understand the changes and the new look. What you see in front of you is the DB Compensation 10.0 new look. The screen is totally different than the previous one, with better graphics, more of a Windows. The other thing we did is we increased the speed between each of the tabs or applications in the software. And we also eliminated some redundancy on double clicks and things like that. When you open up the software, you will always come to the down arrow and you'll have your different studies here. We won't be reloading the software when you get your update. Your studies will be here and you'll be good to go. So in this case, in this training, we have a sample pay scenario. We used to call them studies. Now we're going to call them scenarios. And I'm clicking on that, and that loads the current study or the study or scenario for the one we're going to look at today. The other thing we did is, if you see here, I'm highlighting the different tabs. And so in the past, you kind of didn't know where you were. But now, with both scenario and results, you can click down here and see where you are. Over here on the left-hand side would be the top half of the old software, what we're going to call scenarios, but this was what we called the inputs. And then over here was all the lower half of the previous software main menu was the outputs, and now we're going to call them results. So we have scenario for the study that you're looking at, and the results for that study or scenario. The other thing we did is we changed some terminology. These used to say salary comparisons. Now they say market pay. We also have the salary average pay report. That was the last tab on the previous software. Now it's up here with the rest of the market pay data that you see here. As I mentioned earlier, you'll see easier to read on the different pages or screens that you see with DB Comp, which makes it easier for you to navigate and be able to see what you're seeing. Also, under Utilities and Worksheets, under Update a Pay Scenario, you can select a scenario, and then you can display since. That was a feature that was there before, but we've kind of highlighted that and explained it. We also added this feature, a job description acknowledgement signature section on each of the job descriptions. So when you click that, that will automatically show up at the end of each of the job descriptions. And then the last one is hide this pay scenario. With several of our clients that have been with us since 2005, or that have multiple studies and older studies, you can actually click on whatever study you want to hide, and then click the hide it, and then it'll disappear. You won't lose any data, but it'll just hide that scenario or study unless you unclick it. So those are new features based on client input that you see here. The other thing we did in the software is the gray line here is the when you X out or push this X here on that gray line, that takes you out of the current page. And so we've made that consistent throughout the software. There used to be X's or closeouts of that screen in different places in different applications in the software. We've now made this gray line. That the line above that will take you out of the DB Comp application itself. So just remember, the gray line is the line that you want to click on for that current screen that you're on. If I go back to the pay scenario, we're going to walk through each of these inputs or scenarios, and I'll describe some of the new features that we see in each of those. Positions, That was the first tab of the input, and you'll see here the left is the library and the right is your titles that would be here. You still have the ability to search on either databases or each listing of job titles. Also, you have up here kind of a hints page or tips with the light bulb, and you'll see that on different pages, so you can always read that and kind of get a little bit of an insight on that page. If you wanted to just see preloaded descriptions, where they're preloaded with job descriptions, you can hit the preloaded, and there's about 1,100 of those titles here. If you want to see all of it, you can click both, or if you just want to see titles only, then you can click that. Normally you would keep that on both listed there. If you want to modify the master title list by adding a job title that's not already over here on the right-hand side, you just hit modify master, and you go down to the bottom and you add that, hit return, and that will show up both in the master library as well as show up in your titles over on the right-hand side. Okay. If you want to double click, you can double click on a title, and that will bring that over here to the right side as it says here. If you want to modify your titles, you can hit modify selected titles and make any changes here by title or job code. We put most of the control buttons up here in the top left in most of the screens that you're going to see. So we tried to eliminate, there were some down at the bottom, some at the top, some over on the right. So we tried to be consistent with control buttons at the top left. You can still hit the press F1 anywhere in the software. It knows where you are, and you can learn insight on that current page that you're on. So just remember F1 is your first button for help in the different screens that you're going to be that you work with. So that's the positions here. All right, and then if we go to position analysis questionnaire, this is the questionnaire that creates the job descriptions. You've got the same information, but it's a little easier to read, a little larger font that you see here. There's 3 control buttons up here. These were all, if we right-click, they were down at the bottom of the pop-up box. Now we put those 3 control features up here. The tips are right here, which tell you to right-click, and so right-click to edit, duplicate email, view the job description, save in a Word, PDF, RTF. These all take the description outside the software and take it to your My Documents on your server. Under the Edit PAQ, what's nice about this, we've cleaned this up and made it consistent throughout. It was different fonts and different wording and things like that. So now it's a cleaner look. So yeah, when you open it up, you have main page, essential duties, education, work skills 1 and 2, accountability, certificates, license, registrations, contacts, machine, physical demands, work environment, and additional. So you can see it's a cleaner look for the questionnaire. You have your spell check feature up here at the top left, and you have your save and close on the top right. This is the only place in the software where you have to hit the check button, save and close. So just remember that. Everywhere else in the software, as you make changes, it's automatically making changes as you go. Okay. So this information here, your email status page here shows you what it was sent out and who you sent it to and submitted on and requested by and first email. So just quite a bit of good information as far as the status when you send out the PAQ request. Okay. You can also create a blank for someone who doesn't have a computer or is not computer savvy, and they can fill out the form, and then you can plug that information in for them. Excuse me. If we close out of there and go to job valuing, which was job rating, and we click on a position, you'll see here a couple of new features. We've color-coded some of the headings so that it distinguishes the headings. The other thing is there is a button down here on the existing, but we put wording with it, populate from PAQ. This is bringing the selections off the 15 factors from the questionnaire to this page. And so you're clicking there and then populating those 15 factors. Populating to Exhibit 1, that's the other button that was over to the right that takes you to Exhibit 1, the first output or results exhibit. The other thing we added is View Exhibit 1. We created this box here so you don't have to close out of this application, go back to the main menu or what we call dashboard, and then click Exhibit 1 to go see this 822 show up. So now you can stay in this screen and you can hit View Exhibit 1 and you can look at 822 and see that accounting is right here. So that's a nice new feature. When you X out, you can come back to here if you were to want to make any changes off of what's coming off the PAQ. Okay. There is the, as I mentioned, the control buttons here. I'm coming back here. You can view job ratings, print the job rating sheet, view job evaluation. That shows the 15 factors, the degree, and the value, point value for each of the factors and the degrees. Okay, you can print that. You can manually calculate the scores, and you can excuse me, send email collaboration if you're using a job rating committee. Okay. So that's positions, position analysis questionnaire, and job valuing. Under employee data, you have the data that was there before. Again, a little bit larger font so you can read the data. You have your import data here, merge positions, sorting, sort records, view report, delete all records. So all your control buttons are up here on the top left. The other thing that you were able to do is hit the display pay policy. This would highlight those positions that were under or over and the compa ratio here. When you convert that to view report in the previous software release, it did not pick this information up. In the new release that you're seeing now, it picks this up, and then you can hit the report. You can print it out, or you can take it out to Excel. So you have some different features there that you can do. Okay. The other thing is with this, you can still do your sorting. So you can single sort or multi-sort. If you wanted to, you can reset. And let's say we wanted to see pay rate and we want to see highest to lowest, then you can click on that and save the sorting, and it's going to do highest to lowest, like you see here. And then you can take that out to report and print that out. So you can single or multi-sort the data here. Okay. Under market pay comparisons, you have up to 12 outside comparisons. Each column represents a different survey or a competitor, and so you're plugging your information into each of these columns. The comparison source names, this was the last tab on the current release, software release. We've now embedded that in this screen here. So when you click on that, you can type in your different source names where the data is coming from. You can view this report, and then you can take it out and print it out. So you can do that. And or if you're starting from scratch and you're wanting to have a worksheet to put information in off the different surveys you're working with, you can hit the worksheet part A, and it puts it in a format where you can just print that out and then put your written in numbers off of the surveys into these different worksheets. This is the first 6 outside comparisons, and then part B is 7 through 12. So you have two worksheets that you can print out. Remember, there's some tips up here, and you can hit F1 if you need some additional insight for whatever screen that you're on. Under pay grades, we did make it now to where you can make this alphanumerical here. And so you could make that an A1, or you could make that if you wanted to, a non-exempt grade 1. And then as you can see up here, I've got a exempt 7. So you could have non-exempt 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and maybe exempt 7 is where your exempt levels start, and then go up from there. So you can do an alphanumerical on your pay grades. So that's a new feature here. Also, when you clicked on pay grades on the old Exhibit 6G, or off to the left, the little small box, these 5 boxes were up at the top of the pop-up box. And so if you click on those, that just shows you by grade the point range for that, and then by pay levels for each grade, the range. And then the grade tabular shows you, starting at the top by grade, the point range, the minimum, midpoint, and max for that grade, and then what position titles are in that pay grade. The other thing that happened, or used to happen, when you take this out to Excel, Excel would truncate after the first 7 titles. So we've created a workaround that. So now when you print this out, if there's more than 7 titles within a pay grade, it'll print as many titles are listed in that pay grade. So that's good, and will serve you well. Okay. The 6G portrait is the information without the employee data. It has position titles, the job value, job range, the range midpoint, pay grade, and then the range for that pay grade. And then this is by title, starting at the top down to the bottom of the position titles. And then the last one is 6G. This is the one with the employees. And as you can see, the speed on this is a lot quicker than what you're used to in the past, which is great. And in this case, it shows each of the employees, their position, and then where they are within the range structure, and the dollar variance and the percentage variance. There used to be a duplication of 2 columns. The current pay rate and the midpoint were right in here. We took those out since that data is redundant, and then we're calculating these 2 off of these two data points here that you see. Okay. So those 5 boxes are now up here in the control area under pay grades. They're also down in here too. So we created separate tabs for those 5 boxes if you have pay grades. So they're up in through here in there. The one other thing I want to mention before we go under results, under employee data, under the rank, we used to have just a whole number here. We've now created a number plus 3 decimal points. So if you have job ratings or EEO classifications and you're putting that in that column, it now will mimic whatever you're putting there. So let's say, for example, you have performance rating scores for all your employees. You could plug those in that column, and then you could sort from highest to lowest. So you'd have highest score to lowest score and performance score if you wanted to have that, and then print that out. If you have EEO, you can do the same thing, and you might print from 1 to 5, and then the subcategories for EEO. So that's a new feature for the employee data screen. So that is the scenarios or the inputs. If we come over to results, I'll walk you down through the different tabs for each of them here. Under job valuing, what you'll notice now is you used to have to click once to get to the position, and click a second time for it to turn yellow. So now all you do is click one time, and it highlights in yellow that line that you're looking at. You can make changes and calculate your points here. Some of these control buttons were down at the bottom. Now they're all here in the top left, as we tried to do. You can view the report here. So we can click, and one of the new features we did here is we put the 15 factors heading on each of the pages. So if I click to page 2, or the last page there, or if I click back to page 2, you'll see the 15 factors listed there. It used to be listed on the first page in a vertical. Now they're just listed horizontally, and they're on each page as a frame of reference. So that's an additional feature. The other thing we did is if we're working down in the schedule here, and let's say that you want to take this records clerk from a 2 to a 3, we can click that 3 and we can recalculate that score. Recalculate, but it'll also take you back to that line item. In the past, it would take you back up to the top of the chart or Exhibit 1, and then you'd have to scroll back down. And so we've made it such that wherever you're working, it will go back to there. If you're working there and you want to update the PAQ, after you hit PAQ, which is updating the questionnaire, i.e. the job description, when it's finished with that updating, it'll also come back to that line item that you're working on. So that's a good feature, because you had to do a lot of scrolling down if you were working down in the schedule. The other thing we did is if you put your cursor on a button, if you're working there and you put your cursor, Factor 6 analytical ability, it's going to tell you which one you're working on. Or if you're up here at the top and put your cursor there, it'll bring up the factor that your cursor is pointing to. So that way, if you're working here and you're trying to remember which of the 15 factors are which, we made it to where it pulls up a pop-up for each, whether that's here on the heading or if you're down in here working in that area. If you put your cursor there, it'll pull up that that factor definition or title. Okay. On the interactive scattergram, we really didn't make anything changes here. We cleaned up the look a little bit of the graph. You can overlay your pay policies and your pay grades if you have pay grades, and also you can do the color coding by age, gender, and ethnic background. You can hit the print button here to print that schedule out or print that graph out. The scatter graph report here, that's the static of the interactive. So this one is just what we used to look at, and then we did the interactive. So that's just the one. So if you wanted to print that out, you can print that out. Market pay comparison used to be salary comparisons. The Part A is the first 4, Part B is the next 4, and Part C is the last 4. So if you have the first 4, Part A, if you don't have any more than that, Parts B and C won't show up. If you have more than 4 surveys, comparisons or market pay comparisons, then Part B shows up 5 through 8. Part C would be 9 through 12. If we click on Part A and we look at this schedule, again, the headers have the blue there, so it highlights the headers, and then you've got your data, the positions, the point value, the current pay. If more than one person's in there, it's automatically averaging that. If it's an individual person, then it's that salary for that individual. And then each of the 4 outside comparisons in this sample, and then the dollar amount, the dollar variance, and the percentage variance. We click to the last page, we can see the overall variance for each of the first 4. And then in this case, there's several, I think there's maybe 11 or 12, and the overall variance is 1.53 and a 1.35 on the median. Okay. So Part B and then Part C, so those are, if we click on Part C, we can see here the, so there's actually 9 outside comparisons, so 10, 11, 12 are empty. So there's 9 comparisons in this sample. If we click on the market pay line comparisons, this is the old Exhibit 4. And so that shows the turquoise line is your pay line, and then the outside market data is graphed and showing you what you look like. In this example, if we were the turquoise line, we're kind of in the middle, maybe just a little higher on the upper end, and we're kind of in the middle on the low end. So you could say it's a fairly balanced pay line with market pay in consideration. Okay. If we click on here, we can click on the statistical data. This is the Exhibit 4A. and this just shows you furthest out to furthest ahead and the number of comparisons, the correlation, the slope, and the intercept, which create the pay line for each of these outside market. In this case, again, the overall average is a 1.5% behind market. Okay. The market average pay report, this, as I mentioned earlier, was the down at the bottom of the last tab on the outputs. This is now up with the market pay data, and this is just a report showing by title in the alphabetical order. Job code, the pay mean is the average of the number of comparisons for each position title. So that's a good check and balance to look at this average compared to the range average using the points pay and employee data. Okay. Under policy pay ranges versus actual pay, this, when you click it up, this is the exhibit 5 and shows current pay line, new work towards, minimum, and max. So really no changes here. This is just a graph that shows you where we are, where we like to head towards on our minimum and maximum pay lines. Pay range and pay grades by position. What this is the tabular. This is the one that shows you the kind of the portrait without the employees. So this is one of the 5 boxes that I mentioned to you earlier that you see here. And then pay versus pay grade range. This is the one that's the landscape with the employee information that you see here. And so you have position title, number of employees, job value, the job range, the midpoint of that range, the pay grade, the pay rate, the employee names, and then their range structure for each employee, and then where they are within the range, and dollar variance and percentage variance. Okay. In this example, if we go to the last page, you'll see there's 102 employees representing 2.8 million. If everybody's paid to the midpoint, it'd be just under 3 million, 19 under minimum, 22 in the first quartile, 22 in the second. There's midpoint, 26 in the third, 10 in the fourth, and 5 over max, with a 4.21% variance to market. Okay. And then the pay grade graph by job value, that's the repeat as I was mentioning by the point spread. And then this one is by the dollar spread between minimum to max for each of the grades. And then the pay tabular report is the one that shows you by position title in the grades and what position titles are in each of the grades. So this information here is also mimicked over here in these 5 boxes right there. The budget for the upcoming year, you can dial in a percentage there. Let's just say if we put 4% in here, then you can hit view the graph, and this is the Exhibit 7G. The 4% represents a little over 100,000 off of the 2.8 million with a 4% adjustment or 4% budget, and so this 7G mimics if you have grades. If you don't have grades, it'll be just Exhibit 7, and it matches up with that data. So that's really in a nutshell the changes that we've made. We will be releasing this new 10.0 around the middle of October, and we'll let all of our current clients know ahead of time when we're going to release it. On your end, there really won't be any change. You just you'll get a notice, and the next time you click on the icon, the DBComp icon, you'll have this screen here, and then you'll have your different pay scenarios or pay studies right here, and then you'll just go to town and work with the new software. With that, I'll close the training session for today, and hope you guys have a great week. And if we can do anything for you, please feel free to contact us. Thank you very much.